And get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Heidi Tremaine. I'm the Executive Director of the Earthquake Engineering Research Institute. Our call today is focused on the Friedman Family Visiting Professionals Program and giving a brief introduction to the program, an introduction to ERI, and then we're going to really talk about how to host the best Friedman Family Visiting Professional visits. So all the student chapters that are on the call today, you guys have all been invited because you're going to be hosting a professional this spring. And we just wanted to have a chance to talk to you and share some best practices and ideas, and then open up and be able to answer any of the questions that you may have about the program and about planning your visit. We have today's call, we're operating using GoToWebinar because of the large number of attendees that we are expecting to call in. And so if you have any questions throughout my presentation and here in the introductory portions of our call today, go ahead and type them in the questions field, which is over on the right-hand side of your screen. It should be a little pop-up there. You should be able to type in any questions. And then at the end of the presentation today, we're actually going to do our best to unmute everybody. And so if you have any questions, you could also ask them orally or address any concerns to the group. So go ahead and use the chat, the question box on the right to type in any questions during the presentation as you think of them, or we'll open up to everybody at the end as best we can. I'm also joined today by David Friedman, who's the founder of this program, and he's going to be talking a little bit about the program as we advance through the slides. So with that, I'll get started. Here's the agenda for today. We'll talk about ERI, talk about the program itself, and then talk a little bit more about some of the details of the visits for the 2017-2018 academic school year, kind of the requirements that we have for you guys as student chapters, and then talking the bulk of our time about some of the best practices for hosting a very successful visit. And then finally, we'll conclude today just talking a little bit more about how you, as a student member, can stay involved with the ERI after graduation. So first, ERI is the Earthquake Engineering Research Institute. We're a global earthquake engineering institute, and we're a nonprofit technical membership society. So we have about 3,000 members, and they're all organized and participating in our institute because they're dedicated to earthquake risk reduction. And that is the mission of our institute. We want to reduce earthquake risk by advancing the science and practice of earthquake engineering, improving the understanding of the impacts of earthquakes, and advocating for comprehensive and realistic measures that reduce earthquake effects. And so our institute has been we're in our 70th year right now. We were founded in 1948 and has been constantly striving towards this goal of trying to advance the science and to provide a network of colleagues interested in doing activities to reduce earthquake risk. Our members are a very diverse set of experts and professionals in fields associated with earthquake risk reduction. So we have engineers as the core of our institute, structural engineers, geotechnical engineers, but we also have earth scientists, geologists, seismologists, we have architects, social scientists, public policy makers, emergency managers, and all these different people represent different fields. Some are researchers and academics and professors and students. Others represent the practicing professions, as well as we also have government officials and a variety of other kind of roles that members in all these different disciplines work in. And the way the Institute has worked is that we organize these members into committees, projects, chapters that are all designed to implement our mission. So today we're talking about the Friedman Family Visiting Professional Program, which is one of the ways that we get our members actively involved in achieving our mission. So David Friedman's on the line today, and he's going to go ahead and give you an introduction to how this program began and what it's all about. So David?
Thank you, Heidi, and nice to meet you all electronically. I am currently have the honor and privilege and responsibility of being the president of the board of the ERI. I've spent the better part of my career involved with the ERI, and I give the ERI credit for so much in my career in terms of broadening my perspective and my understanding of the earthquake engineering field, particularly the multidisciplinary aspects of earthquake engineering. Heidi gave me credit for founding the Visiting Professional Program. I actually did not. the program was established by our kind of our seed funding of projects. And I just thought it was one of the coolest things that ERI was doing, amongst a number of other things. But I was just passionate enough about the visiting professional program that I shamelessly convinced my wife and my family to endow the program, just because I was such a believer in what the program was doing. So the least important thing you'll learn today is I'm more than anything embarrassed that my name is on the program just because everyone calls it FFVP, but I am very proud of the program and thrilled that it's there to really work for all of you, to work for the student chapters, because what it really is intended to do is be a linkage between the professional practice and the multidisciplines in professional practice to you. We hope that you begin to learn about ERI, you learn about the work that we do, and we hope you all end up becoming lifelong members of ERI. So the visiting professional program is really there for you to take advantage of having a member of ERI, a professional, come and speak with you about what they do and why they're passionate about the work that they do. So Heidi will talk a little bit later on about the day, about how you organize, and I know many of you are not new to this program, but you should really utilize the visiting professional during the course of the day and get the most out of them and feel free to use them. We fund them, we support them. You have to do nothing but host them nicely and introduce them to faculty and students. And I know as one of the participants for many, many years, I loved the day. I always loved the day. So that's all I really wanted to convey.
Perfect. Thanks, David. Yeah, it's nice to hear from your own perspective why you like this program and how it takes advantage of all the expert members we have in our community who can speak to their careers and their fields and answer any questions from all the student participants. So my next slide is just to talk very briefly through the requirements of the program. And it's good to hear that I think almost all of you are already through the first couple steps. But the first step requirement as a student chapter to participate in the program is that you contact, after you've been accepted, is you contact the visiting professional directly to confirm the date and the details for their visit. Help them with, if you have recommendations for lodging nearby the campus or have any suggestions for travel logistics, that one airport is better than the other, or there's a great shuttle from the airport, or it's just best to take an Uber, or renting a car is the way to go. Any of those logistics are always helpful to that professional as they're arranging their visit. But you don't need to be worried about the expenses. As David said, the professional will pay for all of them themselves. They'll make their bookings and reservations, but any assistance you can provide to be of best use to them as they're choosing the day and planning the details of their visit is greatly appreciated. And then next, you really need to propose a full day itinerary or agenda for the visit to the professional so that you guys can go back and forth and design the day to the best ability that you have and taking advantage of the unique opportunities at your own university. And we're going to talk about that in another slide. Any background materials you have about your university, about the programs, the degrees that you host, anything that would help them, the interest of your student chapter and the students there that can help them customize their lecture topic, they welcome to receive and would be happy to talk to you about that. So that's another step. And then finally, you have a big role in advertising the visit to students and faculty at your university to make sure that we can get a big crowd to the lecture and event, get as many students and faculty participating as possible. And then once the visit is completed, we do ask that you submit an electronic report to us, summarizing the visit and giving us some information about what happened. To make that reporting very easy for you, there's a Word template on the ERI website for the program. and just download the Word template. And there's examples from all the different student chapters over the last several years posted on there as well. Here's 2 images of 2. They utilize the Word template. You start with the agenda, list some of the students who have been involved, give a little overview of the lecture, some other activities that took place while they were there, and then attach any other flyers or advertisements that you did and include any pictures of your program. So we don't think this is it should be a pretty straightforward thing to do. You'll have a lot of the details. It's just putting in a report format so that we can see it. And we use these reports that we share them with the board and other members to make sure that they're aware about the program. And it's also a great learning tool for other chapters who are new and hosting their very first visit. They can look at some of these reports and learn and look at a couple sample agendas and learn about how you designed them. So that is, we do ask you to submit that by the end of May, but I encourage you to do that as soon as possible after your visit, within the next couple of weeks, while it's fresh and easy to complete that. And then next, we just wanted to talk a little bit more about some best practice activities for your itinerary and agenda. These are listed on the website for the program, so if you ever want to read more about them, there's a few more details. They're a little bit more verbose on the website, and you can look there for more details. But I'm just going to go through some of these best practices to give you some ideas of things that you could do to fill your full day and take advantage of the professional that you have coming to your university. So first is the lecture by the visiting professional. This is a required element, that they're there to give you guys a lecture to share some of their expertise and some of their knowledge about their own technical discipline or some interesting topic related to that. Usually these lectures are about an hour, so it's nice to give them at least an hour's worth of time if you can. Some universities do a special evening lecture, others do lunch seminar for their discipline or in their department. Others have them speak in a class or even 2 classes, present 2 different classes. The lecturer could definitely give 2 of the same presentations to 2 different groups if that works out best. But I think our goal is just to get as many people to attend that lecture as possible and benefit from it as much as possible. So at least an hour is really best for the professional for the lecture itself. And then the other ideas here are kind of optional ideas, but for you to pick and choose from, to give you some, to help you think about what would be the best to take advantage of the visit. So one is an informal meeting with graduate students for career guidance. This has been very popular in the last couple of years, both by the graduate students and for the professionals. Kind of just an informal, sit around the table, ability for grad students who are soon to graduate, or even undergrads, depending on the size of your department, to really just ask for career advice. I think some of the professionals have reviewed resumes, others have talked about what they need to say in a job interview. Kind of any questions that you have, what direction should they go? What is it like in this field versus that? Different locations to start your career. They're happy to talk about any of those things totally informally, and it's kind of nice to have an outside perspective to do that with. So that's been a real highlight for many chapters recently, and many students participating. The other idea is to meet with your ERI student chapter leadership. So if you have your 2017-2018 academic year officers and leadership there, it's great to meet with them. Even better is if you've elected the next officers for the upcoming year, or any people that you expect to be new leaders in your student chapter. Kind of the opportunity for them to sit and talk to the professional is a great idea too. A lot of universities arrange visits with faculty members or groups of faculty members. So that's another option for them to share their research, get feedback, kind of thinking from the professional is another great idea there. Professionals and I think students alike also like to give tours of campus or their particular laboratories. If you have some sort of special strong wall, or if you have a geotechnical lab or any sort of laboratory, the faculty members I'm sure love to show them off, the students love to show them off, and the professionals would love to see kind of what your campus has to offer. And kind of what type of testing and activities you guys have underway at your university. Informal meetings with undergrad students as in courses, so maybe stopping in and doing a design critique, or if there's some sort of design course, there might be some way that the professional could review kind of projects or work underway, or just kind of answer questions as a part of a course is a definite possibility. Also just meeting informally with your seismic design competition team if your university has one. The timing right now in the fall, and particularly this year for 2018, our ERI's annual meeting and it's happening at the same time as the National Conference on Earthquake Engineering in June. So that means the seismic design competition isn't taking place till June, so all of your teams will still probably be working and building your structures while the professional is coming out this spring and early summer. So it's a great time to kind of have them meet with them, get ideas, share their design, share concepts, talk about the analysis, work on the analysis predictions, ask them for tips and tricks. That's another great opportunity for you. And then finally, any sort of social event, something like a lunch or a dinner with student chapters, student members, faculty is always appreciated by our professionals. And then if you have something unique at your university that you think is a nice add, don't hesitate to include that. They love to see what's unique about each university and really get engaged in what you guys are excited about. And here are 2 sample agendas that I extracted from a couple of reports last year. And you can see that they vary in time based on the availability of the professional that was there. These both are kind of like an 8-hour day roughly, but meeting with the student chapter presidents for the first one, a tour of the experimental facilities took place, the lecture itself, a coffee break and Q&A and discussion by students and faculty after the lecture, then an informal panel of students for career advice, dinner with the student chapter and board of those student groups, the structural engineers group as well, so maybe an ASCE chapter officers if you have one at your university, and then finally some sort of joint dinner meeting. So another one here had a lot of meetings with professors in the morning, checking in with some professors that were interested in talking to them. A lab tour was involved, the lecture itself, lunch, kind of an informal discussion with graduate students and postdocs over lunch. So these are all different ideas for you guys to think about, and I encourage you to look at all the sample reports on our website for those. And this is a picture of one of those informal lunch discussions about career advice. You know, everyone loves to have free food, so if there's a way your chapter can support or your department can support a lunch, where the visiting professional, who in this picture is Annie Kammerer on the far kind of back right of this image, they love to kind of share ideas and talk informally with students. So with that, I thought I could open up to any questions. I don't know if any questions have been typed in yet, so maybe what we could do is unmute the attendees and see if anybody has any questions, or if you posted a event at your university and have a great idea to share of some activity that you did, we also welcome any of those ideas now. So we're about to unmute the attendees. Looks like it's kind of a little slow. We have to do it one by one, so go ahead and speak up if you have a question. We have one question here typed in. Let me see if I could address that one first. So ERI, the question is, would ERI cover the expense of a dinner with the faculty? That is not something that we currently have in the budget for the professionals program. So we'd encourage your faculty and your department, and maybe your faculty advisor of your university student chapter to look and see if the department has funds to support a meal like that. And that's the best way to fund that sort of activity. Yeah, our expenses, we're trying to facilitate as many student chapter visits as we possibly can within the budget that we have. So we try to keep those expenses pretty small to the travel of the professional, to allow them to make it there. They donate all their time to come see you and participate with you. So if we can keep those expenses small, it allows us to have many more visits to many more universities. Which is why we kind of constrain a cost for a dinner. So the next question I'm seeing here typed in is it okay if the visiting professional visits in the fall instead of the spring? That is definitely a possibility. And I think you can email back with your professional back and forth. If it's a constraint on the professional side, we can definitely push the fall and kind of work out those details. Generally, I would say that we prefer the spring, mostly because we know there's so much rotation of students at your own universities. You know, as students graduate, you all applied this fall, the students participated who are involved in proposing for this and planning for it may graduate. So it's okay to extend into the fall if it becomes critical. I think you just need to talk with ERI staff and your professional about the best plan for that. But if at all possible, it's nice to stick with the spring if you've got a date scheduled and in mind, so that kind of the students who were involved in proposing for it can all participate in the event. But we're fine to accommodate special circumstances if they come up in your case. So the next question we have is about, we are planning a disaster preparedness event aligned with the visit of our professionals. So it looks like Melissa would like to be unmuted to answer more details about the question. Melissa, why don't we try to do that? In the meantime, why don't I answer one other question, and we're going to try to find you to unmute you, Melissa. So the next question is, does ERI only pay for the travel, the speaker, or both travel and lodging? We pay for both travel and lodging. And the professionals should be able to pay for that themselves. We have a similar call with them, so they understand how this works. Many of them have participated for a few times. So you don't need to help arrange their lodging or make those arrangements for them unless they ask for your help there. But any recommendations, I know they would appreciate, and they definitely can pay for their travel and lodging expenses themselves. Let's see, Melissa, is that you?
Thank you. So I'm Melissa Preciado from Portland State University, and we are working alongside ASCE to do a large disaster preparation event that is going to serve not just PSU students and ERI students at PSU, but also the whole community. And we've talked to our ERI visiting professional is Jay Wilson, and he's a local disaster preparation person. So I was wondering, you were talking about the lecturing aspect of it. We are going to be showing a film that he is featured in, the Unprepared OPB documentary, but we're also are going to be having different panelists at this event. How formal of a lecture does it need to be for it to count for a visiting professional lecturer?
Melissa, I think we could definitely talk about this offline. If you have more questions, we could chat or communicate by email with Jay Wilson. I would say that I think it's a great idea to align a professional visit with some other event that you're hosting. There are great speakers and could be a great panelist for an event like yours. I think we just also want to make sure that however they're doing that in the way that's best designed with you and the professional, I think we're happy to go with what seems the best to do. I think the other key point, though, is if they're doing an event, that they don't get so caught up in that event that they don't have time for these other bonus activities, which is meeting with some of the students, really taking advantage of being at your campus, and benefiting as many students.
Okay.
So we've got a tiny bit of background noise from someone, but Melissa, did that answer your question in general?
Thank you.
Okay, but if you have further questions, I'd be happy to talk to you and Jay Wilson, and maybe we could arrange any more details or by another call. So we have one other question here from San Diego. The question is, so UC San Diego has been assigned a professional local to their region, so he wouldn't have travel expenses. And they're wondering if there's any budget to assign to other expenses for their chapter. And in that case, we really don't. So one way that we're able to match as many students and as many universities as we can is we sometimes do take advantage of local professionals where the expenses would be low. So I would say in that case, we probably don't have a budget to support additional refreshments from that event. Because we haven't budgeted too much for that professional match. And so sometimes for universities, we'll match you with someone who's far away and has big travel expenses, and sometimes we try to make it match with a closer professional. And it just allows us to make more matches. So it would be best to go to your department or think at your chapter if there's some other way that you can kind of pull together funds for any sort of snacks or refreshments at that meeting. If you do have further questions, though, Mohammed, go ahead and send me an email, or you can talk to Jorge about it. But one other idea kind of related to that, Jorge also happens, who's the professional visit San Diego, he also happens to be the president currently of the ERI San Diego regional chapter. So that's a professional level chapter for ERI members local to the region, trying to conduct activities to reduce earthquake risk in their specific region. And many of your universities may have a regional chapter nearby. So there may be a possibility that your regional chapter could fund some snacks or activities and also boost attendance. They might be able to advertise, and if you guys are open to having some other professionals come and listen in from your local region, that might be another way to get either funding for some of these other activities or to draw additional attendance and more interaction for the students at your university. So definitely something to think about. And Mohammed, that might be an idea that you can pose to Jorge about whether or not there would be funds available from the chapter to support some small costs for refreshments. And so it looks like a couple of people have asked a similar question about kind of using other funds that they don't need accommodation. But we've already taken that, as I said, we've taken account for the funds that the professional would need to travel to your university. We've taken account for that already in our matching to try to make as many matches as possible. We really don't have surplus funds to support other refreshments for the reception. But do consider a local regional chapter, if they're a professional level chapter, if there's one in your region, might be a really great match to support some of those expenses. And if you have a question about some of the regional chapters in your region, you can always find a list of them on our ERI website. And I'm actually, at the very end of this call, I'm going to show you a couple slides so you can at least glance at the names of all the regional chapters. And if you can't seem to find the correct contact names for those chapters, you can also send an email to the ERI staff, and we can help match you with the professionals there. So I think those are all the questions that have come through. Are there any other questions that came up that anyone has to ask at this point? Do you need me to further clarify anything? So hearing nothing, I just wanted to go ahead and say that I will go ahead and send out these PowerPoint slides, or ERI staff will be sending them out to you guys so you can look at the slides themselves at your leisure. And maybe what we could do is go ahead and answer a couple of the questions that were asked here in brief, and we'll put them into a PowerPoint slide at the end of the discussion so you can see some of these frequently asked questions, so we could talk, you could see a response in there too, in case you're curious. So with that, David, do you have anything else to say before I jump into how these our student members can stay involved after they graduate?
No, I think the only thing I would add is enjoy yourselves. I think it should be a fruitful time. The exchange of questions and answers, I think, is always well received. I would say you covered it, Heidi, in reviewing the potential agenda. I always enjoy meeting with students, and invariably the conversation is about what is practice like? What is it I can expect? And sometimes that's from undergraduates and graduate students, and so I always enjoy that part of the exchange.
Great. Yeah, so preparing some questions in advance, and really don't worry about your speakers being so formal. They would love to take any questions, so don't hesitate to ask them anything while they're there visiting your university. So with that, I just wanted to summarize in a couple final slides here kind of how you as a student chapter officer and member can become involved in ERI and stay involved once you graduate. Student members who transition into become a young professional member get the first year free. So as soon as you graduate, you go ahead and send an email to ERI@ERI.org and request your first year free membership, and you have a whole year free as you transition to become a young professional. So that is an advantage you definitely want to take an opportunity you definitely want to take advantage of. Kind of at no cost to you, it gives you a great easy way to stay a part of the ERI as you're moving and as you're transitioning into your career. And we have special young professional rates for many for the next 4 years. So it's a great way for you to stay involved with the ERI. And the best way to become involved in ERI and stay active is really to join and participate in ERI. So here's a couple ideas that you guys all may want to consider upon graduation. Joining our Student Leadership Council, that's something you can do now as a graduate student. If you're as a graduate student, our student chapters, each of them are allowed to have a representative on our Graduate Student Leadership Council. They're the ones who design and host the seismic design competition every year. So if you're interested in that, look at the Student Leadership Council website from the ERI website, and they can get more information about how to join and be involved. We also have a very active Young Members Committee right now. They're putting on special webinars for young members, and they're putting on events and activities at our annual meeting each year. And they're a great group that's open to any young member to come and be involved and transition your enthusiasm from your student chapter off to when you become a professional. There's professional regional chapters that I've already talked about when you move. They're all over the United States. So if you move to one of those regions, definitely join, become involved. They'll have local events and activities that you can join. You could always offer to mentor a seismic design competition team after you graduate at your home university or at a university in the region where you wind up moving. Also, we have postgraduate internships here at ERI. I actually right now have Omar and Julio, who are here, are interns here at ERI for the next 6 months, and they're helping me with this call and doing a whole bunch of other exciting projects while they're here. So there's always notices on the ERI website and our Pulse newsletter about those internships for you to keep an eye on. And finally, we also have just launched a new program called our LSE Travel Study. And this is a program designed to get young members and young students and young professional members involved in learning from earthquakes that have happened around the world. And these are field intensive trips to locations around the world where earthquake has happened in the last 5 years, where you do some reconnaissance activities and some training activities and learn from people impacted in that region. So they're a great opportunity as a young member to get involved. It looks like there'll be a couple trips coming up in the next year or two, and so kind of keep an eye on the pulse for how to apply for those as we announce the next locations. So those are just a few ideas for you to think about how to stay involved when you graduate. And here's a list of all the regional chapters. So if you move to any of these regions, this might be a regional chapter that you could become involved in once you graduate. And also if your university currently is in one of these regions, there may be a group that could really help co-sponsor your Friedman professional lecture and maybe draw some more attendance if you did a evening lecture, or also potentially host a meal or reception or something to support the visit as well if your department is unable to do so. So another idea to consider. So with that, you can always learn more about ERI at our website, or ask us questions when you have them. We have a small staff here, but we're always wanting you to be involved and stay involved and be of service to you. So don't hesitate to ask us or ask your professional if you have any questions about ERI during their visit. So with that, unless there's any other questions, I will go ahead and close our call today. Last chance for questions? So if not, have a wonderful time with your visits. We hope it's a blast. We always hear great feedback from our students and professionals, and are really glad that you guys are all able to participate in the program this year. Thank you and have a great time.